Hey, good morning. Welcome back to Product Coffee. We've got something a little bit different for the first cup today. Most of our community didn't make it out to Product Fest in Richmond, but the buzz was real. So there were really inspiring lessons, there were a lot of hallway conversations, and today we've got some folks who are joining us to let us know about what really stood out, what they learned, and what they're already stealing, hopefully. So today's session is one for folks with serious FOMO. If you love going to product conferences and you weren't able to get up to Richmond or down to Richmond, whichever direction you'd be coming from, or over to Richmond, this session is for you. We're going to talk a little bit with some folks who were there in the thick of it and had a good time and are ready to share what they learned and what they're thinking about for the future. I want to start off, I want to introduce our first cup panel today. And first off, this lady thrives on recalculating. She asks the best questions and can probably out-hike your product roadmap. Say hello to Allison Herbert of Milliken and Company and Product Copy Librarian. Welcome, Allison.
Morning, everyone.
And next up, she's building tech communities from Richmond to Rwanda because solving big problems shouldn't have borders. Give it up for Mary Glerum, founder and CEO of Blu-m Studio. Hey, Mary.
Hey, good morning, everyone.
All right. And her brain runs on sticky notes, strategy decks, and bird facts, and somehow it all works. Say hello to Dr. Brittany Caps, the queen of seamless experiences and product designer at CarMax. Hi, Brittany, welcome.
Welcome. Thank you.
And he's coached careers, built startups, and still finds time to be a nonprofit board member because sleep is for B2C product managers. Please welcome Wes Royer, VP of Product Management at Clarivate. Hey, Wes.
Good morning.
Welcome, welcome. So, Allison, you spend most of your time in the woods, but you still showed up for Product Fest like a pro. What stood out to you in the concrete jungle of Richmond's tech scene this year?
Oh, yeah, that's a great question. So I'm picky about which events I attend because it is a little bit of an effort. My office is 20 paces that way. So the commute is a little lighter most days. But Richmond's really got an interesting tech scene. I've seen a lot of really great events pop up in the last year or so, maybe 2 years. And Product Fest, the very first year, I was not there. I think Wes was there perhaps, and I know Mary was there. But I had FOMO the first year, and I've made it a point every year since to make sure that I was there, and it's never disappointed. There's really great conversations. The community is very vibrant here, and the team that puts together RVA Tech is part of the Product Fest group there, and they do a really great job at selecting what's top of mind, what makes sense, and what's driving conversations in the product space.
Very cool. So, Mary, you were in the trenches this year. You were helping make Product Fest happen. So, what's something that surprised you from the inside? And then the second part of that is, what did you learn that made all the chaos worth it?
The first question, what did I learn from the inside, is that quality content in terms of the programming of the speakers really changes the game in terms of putting on an event like this.
Yeah.
We had one session in particular this year, and the theme this year, for those that don't know, was Build What Matters. And we had the highest number of Product Fest attendees ever. We pushed 450 attendees this year, and we sold out the Dominion Energy Center Historic Theater where we host this event. One of the sessions that I had the opportunity to introduce was Nick Perkele, and he did a live AI demo where he built a feedback app in 45 minutes using
I heard about
AI.
this.
And watching him in action do something live, and he self-admitted that his heart rate was running at about 120 beats per minute while he was running the session was outstanding. And to see how we could, as a planning committee, rely on the top-notch talent of speakers to run a live session like that was just an outstanding level of vulnerability and trust from a planning perspective. And your second question?
The second question was, what did you learn throughout the whole experience that made all the chaos and all the late nights worth it?
Sure. So my role in particular on the steering committee, and I've been on the steering committee for Product Fest since it began 4 years ago, is that I focus on the academia portions of content And we invite students to be student pitchers every year. And what I learned is that herding cats and students from a university perspective, to get them all to show up for a student pitch competition, it can be a lot of late nights and weekends and text messages because they don't reply to email. So that's what I learned.
Yep, cool. So, Brittany, what, and you can talk about anything you want to, but I definitely want to kind of tease some of these up. So, what moment at Product Fest had you mentally redesigning the world? What else got you fired up?
First of all, let me just say to Mary, I remember the student pitches from last year, so I was so excited for that segment this year. They're so impressive, and I had a first-time Product Fest attendee next to me, and the whole time she was like, "Are these real?" Like, didn't believe that they were like real students, real projects, real results, and I was like, "No, yeah, they're real." So that was really neat. I think the biggest takeaway moments for me were, even though the overall theme was build what matters, the sub thread that I was picking up on in some of these talks were the environment that innovation needs to thrive. And I think that is fitting for your topic later today, where you're going to be delving into innovation. But there was a panel on building innovative ecosystems, and there was a particular panelist, Vita, who was so eloquently speaking about our community, our Richmond community in particular, because she's local, but she's been in the tech scene 30 years, and she's been also in the trenches in a different way. She's been in multiple different industries, and she talked a lot about the structures, the tools, the education that people need in order to make innovation happen, because innovation does not happen in a vacuum. And I was sitting there just listening to her, processing what she was saying, thinking about the environment of innovation. And right now, I'm an individual contributor, but there's still so many ways that individuals can create innovative environments, whether you're at a larger company or you're at a startup, you're by yourself, by just the way that you're interacting with humans, the tools that you're using and sharing, the education that you're giving and receiving. So that was a really powerful moment for me, and the one that I'm taking with me as I leave.
Awesome. So yeah, I'm really intrigued by the student pitches section. I would definitely want to kind of learn more about that and how that all worked, because it sounds like it was really impactful. I know Allison mentioned it offline. Brittany was really impressed with it. Mary, I know you poured your heart into that, so I'm definitely interested in hearing more about that. But before we get back around to that, let's jump over to Wes here for just a second. And Wes, you wear a lot of hats. You're coach, you're a VP, you're on a nonprofit board, you apparently are a conference goer. What at Product Fest had you taking notes?
Sure. I mean, the theme, so going into it, the theme in my mind was, with AI and everything coming in, there's both the promise, the idea, and maybe the misconception of we're getting to a point where anyone, a product manager, a UX designer, a developer, can walk up to the Star Trek replicator and all of a sudden build the app and the website that everyone needs. And I think I was, to be really honest, I think Mary knows this from some of the meetings beforehand. I was a little bit hesitant with some of the steering committee people on, like, don't make it too AI focused. Like, let's not forget that this is a product fest, right? But I think the balance was good, because besides seeing someone build an app in front of us and the pros and cons of doing so, because he was really good at showing up, oh, that didn't work. Oh, let me just tweak this, that type of thing. And seeing him sweat while he was up there trying to do it. But then also in this leadership forum that we had, which this is the first year that we've done this at Product Fest, the topic really was, in kind of three different scenarios, what do we do with AI? Like, how does it impact our product team? And when I say the product team, yes, I'm definitely focused on product managers, but also all the stakeholders that help us or are part of the overall team. So not just dev and QA and UX and delivery management, but also marketing and sales and things like that. How does AI impact our products? And then how does AI impact our processes and product ops, right? And
Hmm.
how things operate in products. And so in that level, it actually worked because here I'm going to dumb it down. We're taking just a new tool that's put in the tool chest, right? And saying, well, what do we do with this? How does it change things? Just like tools and processes and frameworks have changed things every couple years in product management. So I think that's where it did come together well is there is this new tool, this new thing, and you go into LinkedIn and there's people talking about it like it's the end of product managers, right? Or sorry, it might be the end of UX designers, but it's not. And that's part of what came out of the leadership forum is like everything else that everyone on this screen is used to in their career at this point. It just means we're going to change the way we do things. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen overnight. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen without errors and mistakes and trying to figure out things that we're actually just going to figure out how it works and make things better. And it'll impact everyone, yes, but it doesn't mean people are going away and losing their jobs tomorrow. It just means that we have to adapt. But I think that's what everyone on this screen is used to doing every couple of years.
Yeah,
Yeah,
go ahead.
Oh
Sorry.
no, I was going to say that's a really great point that you bring is right. It's new, it's shiny. We all have our attention on it, but it isn't a reason to set everything on fire and run away and learn a new way to do your job because the large portion of what you do is still needed. But I think the other piece that comes through, and Brittany touched on it as well, like it fills your cup to come to events like this and
Mhm.
hear how other people are having, oh, the same problem you're having or have had the same conversation you've had. Wes, I know you share Mohammed's Substack from his readout from his
Yeah.
panel, but they had a "What do engineers really want" panel, and they had four engineers talking about what it's like to work with product people. Oof, that was a brutal conversation, but it was real. And really understanding like it takes a whole team to deliver really excellent experiences across whatever products you serve. And hearing that last year, I came with two of my team members. Neither of them had ever been to Product Fest or many conferences in the product space. And when my peer sat next to me, she goes, "I'm not doing product." I was like, "Yes, you are. It's just, it's a conference and people have aspirational thoughts and provoking ideas to lead conversation." So I enjoy getting that out of the conference as well. I think that's always been a case with this one specifically. And again, why come out of the woods for it? So,
Yep.
And Mary, to your credit, because I know you've been on the organizing committee for a long time. So I've always tried to go. Obviously, if there's a conference locally, why wouldn't I go? Why wouldn't I try to get my company to pay for it? Whatever. But luckily, this past year, I've been able to also go to like Pandemonium down
mhm.
in Charlotte for Pendo. And I was also able to go to the Mind the Product in London this past year. To be quite honest, as flashy as those names are and as big as those conferences are, Product Fest is put on just as well and just as classy and well organized as any of those. And honestly, for me, I kind of appreciate that it's only around 400, 500 people as opposed to the 1,500 or more that go to the other ones because it, to some extent, becomes a little bit of chaos when you're walking around in those other events. But yeah, it's great that Richmond's been able to put on a first class, world class event that has great speakers, has speakers that aren't people that I've worked with before. I think that's something that happens other kind of local conferences is it's like, oh, those are all the same consultants and executives that we've seen speak at every other event. And that doesn't happen at ProgFest. It's all new people brought in from everywhere. So it really makes it great for the Richmond product and UX and developer community.
Wes, thank you so much for sharing that sentiment. And I can say from the steering committee perspective, we're very intentional, myself, Jared Wasden, and Travis Bjorklund, of bringing in a mix of people on stage that are local talent, but then also out of towners, if you will, to bring kind of those fresh outside of Richmond ideas and personas to the stage. Another thing that I wanted to mention is that Product Fest is a bit of a full circle moment because our closer this year was Bruce McCarthy. And I actually met Bruce McCarthy by attending Product Camp in Atlanta. So, and I had the privilege and benefit of seeing him on stage there and meeting him in the Get a Freebie book line after the fact. And, Jason, Brett, hats off to you. We replicated that. I was so inspired by that experience at Product Camp Atlanta that we invited Bruce to be our closing keynote and have the books. And Bruce McCarthy even did a pep talk backstage for all the students that pitched prior to them going on stage and then signed all of their books for them. And so it was a wonderful, wonderful full circle moment. And the product, and Allison, to what you were saying about how your colleague last year said, well, I'm not doing product continues to be, in my opinion, such a diverse role depending on the company and the culture in which you're employed, that it means something different almost every single company that you work for in a product role. So that's another thing we try to do at Product Fest is try to not define what product is from too much of a prescriptive manner and bring those voices and those talents of what product is in the wild to the stage.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Very good. Very good. I see we have Nick Fab in the audience here today. Nick, I heard you were at Product Fest as well. Would love it if you'd jump on camera and give us some of your thoughts as well. If you're able to jump on camera.
Yeah,
If not, your voice is just fine.
yeah, I'm driving to work right now, so I can't jump on camera. But yes, this was my fourth year at Product Fest. I've known Mary since we worked together a few years back when she was first putting it on. So I've attended every year, and it's always been a great experience. Always learn. There's definitely like for me one thing that typically will like stick out that like I take away that leaves an impression, I guess, for me. Unfortunately, I missed the AI thing because I had some work stuff going on. But for me, they had his name was Joel. I can't remember his last name, but he used to work at Netflix.
Ah.
And one of the things he mentioned is being ambidextrous. And what he meant by that is not left, right hands, both of them, but being able to do what you need to do in the present, to keep the lights on, but also think about the future and kind of where you're headed and kind of be able to handle both. And I've always been a big picture thinker kind of guy. And just hearing that like remind me that, yeah, you do have to do the stuff in the now to keep the lights on. You got to always kind of plan for that as well. You can't just always be thinking about, hey, where are we going and what do we want to do? So for me, that was really helpful. That really kind of stuck with me. But it's always been a great experience, and they have a happy hour party afterwards, which is always a blast too. So I plan to attend every year they have it, and yeah, it's just like I said, it's a great experience. We've got a great product community here in Richmond, and yeah, not much anything, just all positive from me, I guess.
That's awesome. So let me ask thank you, Nick, and be safe driving there. Appreciate your insights. Love that everyone had such a great experience. We've got Atlanta Tech Week going on in Atlanta right now, and so I was down, and it's a different type of event. There's a big render conference that's going on, but there's also a bunch of tech events all over town. There was a whole product management track yesterday run by the Black Product Managers Network, and I had some great sessions down in Buckhead for that yesterday. So these peer education and these community education events are really powerful. But one of the things that I noticed Wes said is you really loved that Product Fest brought in a lot of speakers that weren't the people that you talk to every day. So that was something that really resonated with you. And I'm curious, just from all of you, what are some things that we need more of from your perspective, just coming off of Product Fest? What are some things that we need more of in these types of professional product management events? What are things that you want to see more of?
everything. Now, I think one of the big things, I think it was touched on a little bit by someone else. I can't remember if it was Brittany or Allison, but it's Product Fest, but it doesn't mean that only product managers should show up to this. And I think this fits in. Allison, you mentioned that Abdullah, who works for me at Clarivate, how he reshared one of the sessions that he is, and he actually shared it within my work as well to developers and product people.
Hmm.
And then I counter shared another recent LinkedIn article that was the opposite perspective. Neither one of them, they weren't pro to con or against each other. It was actually just from the product perspective, what they expect of developers. And it actually creates some conversation both on LinkedIn and internally about getting people out of these kind of siloed shells, right? And so when product people attend a UX conference or even an agile or develop conference, when a developer and UX people attend product conferences, it just makes everyone start to understand, not, I hate saying roles because we're all a team and we're all trying to get to the same outcomes and goals, right? But it helps people understand people's, how they contribute to the team and how they can contribute in different ways to the team that maybe their previous managers and teams never really let them think they could be involved or contributed in. So that to me is really important because it really creates a more cohesive team, a more cooperative, collaborative team. And that was part of what I meant too with having people that were outside the city, both as attendees and speakers as well. Because I've been to, I'm not going to name it, but there's another local conference that happens every year. And it just seems like it's the same people every year who speak. And I'm even one of them has spoken multiple times there. And you can only go so far with that, right? Because you're really not bringing new perspectives and ideas into it. And so I would want to see from these conferences, making sure that we are bringing in a lot more perspectives and ideas, not just, dare I say, the cookie cutter or what you would expect from a product presentation. Bring in the new stuff, bring in the panels where people are just really openly contradicting each other and having different perspectives. Bring in the speed networking things so that young and old, beginning career, end of career, like are getting together and sharing their ideas, their experiences, and maybe even helping each other find their next role. Those types of things that really grow the community outside of just the product managers.
Yeah, I think Wes brings a good point, and I was going to say I was going to answer with diverse thoughts or diverse perspectives, but I think you nailed that really well. The other part I think is a place to practice it, and
Mhm.
product is such a lonely profession, right? You're very usually a single person or a small team, so
Nobody
having places.
understands us.
Nobody understands us. But it's a space to come and say, gosh, I had that same problem too, and here's what I did. And right, maybe that's not the right way, but hearing two and three people talk about the same problem gives you an idea of they have a different team or they have a different structure and this might work or this might not work. I know we've seen that here in this community, and I know, Mary, I won't volunteer you there, but I know that's something we've talked about frequently is the opportunity to throw an idea out there or a challenge out there and hear, yes, it's product therapy. Yes, Manesh, that's a good call out. But yeah, I think every time, and the other part that I'll tie this up quickly, Jason. I don't come out of the woods for everything, and I will go places. I go to Atlanta. I've been to DC. I attend other events, and right, it is the quality of the event. There's a great event in Chicago that I continue to go to because I mean, they've got the best interstitial music on the planet. So I think that's really silly to go to a conference for that, but it's just genuinely good conversation. You make good connection with people, and right, the people doing the work is where you need to have the conversations because that's where right, you can have the most meaningful learnings and impact about what you take back to your team or what you take forward in your career.
Yeah. And Allison, I mean, I think this was part of one of the things that when I first met you, that you and I talked about too, is I know one of the hard learnings that I've had, especially going into more of a leadership role within product, is you cannot just take what you did at the previous
Mhm.
company, previous role, previous team, and just say, I'm going to use the same damn framework and solve everything at the next place. No, it's just
Doesn't
not
work
how it
that way.
works. And so the only way, the only way you're going to be able to actually go into a new role, new team, new product, and actually drive some good outcomes and changes on those teams is by learning from other people, just by talking to them through networking, by seeing some of these presentations, or even speaking at some of the events. Like, that's really where you're going to get all of that other perspective and insight to figure out what to do with the next team, because every place is different. However, it's there's all places have problems, and they're actually all quite similar. They just have nuances that make how you approach it differently.
Yeah.
And so that's always the tricky thing. But like Allison said, it's always great to talk to someone and be like, oh, I have the same problem. It's a little bit different, but I have the same problem. Like, you kind of feel like you're being heard at that point. But then it allows, you to discuss with other people you've never met before how they've approached it.
So for our Zoom audience, if you have any thoughts that you'd like to jump in on, if you didn't make it to Product Fest and didn't have FOMO before, do you now? And more importantly, what other events have you been going to? What have you been attending, and what do you want to see more of? Or just what has your attention? Raise your hand if you'd like to introduce yourself, and we encourage you to come on camera and let everybody get to know you a little bit. But I want to jump in. I know Scott gets around quite a bit. Scott, how you doing this morning?
I am doing great. Yeah, I've got a little bit of FOMO. The travel for product can't be product fest conference type things hasn't quite made sense yet, but maybe it will.
Cool. See, who else do we have here that we would, and we're going to just take a couple minutes to just jump around and talk to folks. Feel free to jump in, like I say, if you've got something specific. And I see a bunch of cameras going off. Hey, there's Manesh, who wants to know if there is a Brown product conference. Manesh, jump on in.
He just does that to get me to shake my head. That's what he does.
He does. He's very good at it.
Great conversation so far. But I was thinking about some of the stuff about people were talking about AI and Product Fest and not be about AI. Back in the day, for some of us, we experienced other technologies like blockchain that had all that kind of excitement. I sense we're going through the same effect, so to speak, number one, but product is still there. That you still have to do the experimentation. You still have to ask the questions. You still have to be in front of the customer and understand what's going on. AI is just a tool to help you out. So what I would love to get is for those folks that have been through that, went through that, learn from them what they experienced back in the day. It doesn't have to be blockchain. It could be anything else that we did back in the day when we had new widgets that were coming out that accelerated web development or any of that stuff, and learnings from that, so that the people that are working in product today and having to deal with this AI stuff can avoid those same hurdles, if you will.
Yeah, Aaron Forrester actually gave a talk on pretty much just that. It was the ROI of design, and he talked about the evolution of tools. He is a photographer, so he talked about cameras and how we went from the film camera to the digital camera, and then the editing tools as well. So starting with Photoshop and then moving into Adobe products, InVision, and things that were much more accessible. And then he applied that sort of to at least research and design, where I think the quote he said was, new tools create a new baseline, and everybody can jump on a new tool, but the people who rise above it focus on human nature and experience. That is something that we can do that AI can't do, or can't do it well. And that's ultimately what's going to put people out in front of these new tools, or at least outlast them.
We are going to be thinking like an innovator today. We've done, we've kind of gone through and pulled together a bunch of best practices from probably 30 or 40 sources that we went through to find the 10 habits that the most innovative product people and product companies routinely engage in to deliver great product innovation. And we're going to go through those today. So one of the first things that we're going to do here in just a moment is I've got the 10 habits already. I've laid them out in a Miro board, and I'm going to share that with you here in just a moment. And we're going to open a voting session and ask everybody to look at the topics. You're not going to get any more information than what you see on the screen right now, but we want you to vote for the one that you are most interested in exploring more deeply today. We're going to do this a little bit product camp style. You get 3 votes. There are 10 topics, so choose the 3 topics that you most want to hear about, and then we'll go from that. We'll do deep dives on the ones that have the most interest in talking about. And as I said a moment ago, at the end of the session today, we're going to give you a downloadable list of all of the habits, as well as a little reminder about them to take back to your team, to open some discussion, to print out and put beside your desk, or make a screensaver out of, whatever you like to do, to kind of trigger your thinking throughout the week ahead. So I'm opening the voting session right now. First takes here, as you're looking at the list here. Nandu, what jumps out at you?
Oddly enough, the one that jumps out at me is use your own product, which I'm not sure I 100% agree with. I'll tell you, because so I worked at Evernote for a few years, and a common refrain in that office, whenever anyone in the company talked about a product feature, a common response was, "Yeah, but you're not our user." Because what we had found